So reduce anxiety to increase adaptation. Your brain is wired for consistency. When you do something that you've done a lot every day, like driving, you don't think about driving to get here. You know where you're going. There's a reduction in the amount of energy that you need to use to get somewhere. When you go someplace that you've never been before, how much energy does it take to ensure that you get to where you're going? Anybody? You have to pay attention, you don't want to get lost, all that goes with it. So that's the difference between this wonderful highway of neurons that works in your brain that's just flowing and everything's real well, and all of a sudden, kaboom, I have to go in a new direction. And when the highway department throws that at us, we go into chaos and all the rest of that, and then we generally move into some sort of panic or anxiety or concern. When you're going through a change, this is so critical. Reducing anxiety. What are some of the ways that you can start to reduce anxiety in some of the changes that we've listed up there? Just help each other. Be consultants to each other today. Take baby steps. I like that. We'll talk about that more. What was the other one? Communicate. And communication is helpful. There's two types of schools of communication. I know I'm overgeneralizing here, but there's two. One, and I'll talk about a large pharmaceutical that I was engaged in, did not tell their employees about a change at all until the Friday of the change and said on Monday you will be working for a different company. Large pharmaceutical, okay. Now the other pharmaceutical, which is here, explained the change along the way, told people what they could do, gave them bits of information along the way, even gave them 60-second sound bites of what was happening. Which of those two organizations do you think is working better today as a result of their communication practice? Yeah, so your point is well taken. Communication along the way. People do not want to communicate quite often because of what? Fear of?
Not correct information.
Don't have enough correct information? Okay, good. Pardon me?
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. Other reasons?
Inundated with questions they may not have answers.
May not be able to answer. Okay, so with that issue right there, to stand in front of 150 people and someone poses you a question that you can't answer, you have a couple of options. You can say, I prefer not to answer that question at this time, which is really going to help trust, right? Or you can say, I don't have an answer for that, but I will do what? I'll get back to you. Now, the important thing is actually to get back to them, because otherwise the trust erodes. So there's ways to manage communication even in the face of not having all answers. I can't stress that enough. The organizations that do that share information as they have it, what's happening with their employees along the way? What are they doing?
Engage. They're supporting.
Okay, they're supporting, they're engaging, and there's one really big one I'll talk about in a moment. Pardon me?
They feel that they are part of the change.
Feel they're part of the change. That's a big one, sure. The second one is to simplify. I'm sorry, doctor, I don't remember your first name. Jim. Oh. T? Tim? Okay. Like I said, there's that rock and roll thing again. Tim, when you talked about baby steps, there's a real power to this. How many of you have been to seminars where at the end of the seminar you start on a Monday morning and you went through the entire week, all week, and you walked out with binders that were like this big. And you put them all in your car, and what did you do with them? I never looked at them again, right? Okay, it's because that kind of change management is overwhelming to people. In learning, there's some learning folks here from the Minnesota School of Business, there's a technique that's called distributed practice, which means a couple of intense moments of learning followed by periods of rest. It works far better than what's called mass practice, which is just dump the truckload of stuff on top of people. Does that make sense to everybody? So those simple moments to say, okay, here's what the change looked like. Somebody talked about confusion before. Let's sort of lay this out and sort of give you a bit of where we're at this point in time, and then let you digest that and then go on to something else. You know the difference because you've experienced it. The next one is follow through. Follow through to assist integration. I had the opportunity to be a director of best business practice, and I worked with 18 organizations, excuse me. 9 of them were engaged in the process of learning a new best business practice. The other 9 were there to learn it as well. The one group we worked with, every 30 days, we had their manager, their vice president, and their team get together and just say, did you do what you said you were going to do? The other group we left alone. One group got the drug, the other group didn't get the drug per se. Which group do you think had more of the change engaged at 6 months? The one that had regular 30-day communication. And especially if you have the accountability of an executive in there, that's a big deal. Let's go on to the next one. Measure for correction and celebration. Measure for correction and celebration. Why would you want to measure a change? And by the way, I believe anything can be measured if you work hard enough. You can figure out a way to do that. Why would you want to measure something to help assist your change management practice?
Make sure you meet your goals.
Okay, to find out if you met your goals. Thank you.
To see if you're on track for the change that's happening. Is it going the way you want it to?
Okay, there's some course correction that we talked about there, so thank you. Yeah. Are we achieving what we want to achieve? Are we on track? Anything else? Other reasons that you might want to measure stuff. Well, here's a big one. In any kind of big change in your organization, you ask people to do a lot. Remember we talked about additional workload? So somewhere along the way, you will have actually achieved a milestone where people have worked their hearts out, they've got something done, and it's there. If you measure that and you show we went from 5 members up to 50 members, that's a moment for celebration, and what it does is it re-energizes the team. It re-energizes the team again. The team says, oh, well, we could do that. I guess we can do some more. And not only did we do that, but our executives, our leadership, looked at us and said, hey, thanks for doing that. It's an amazing thing, and I've seen this across organizations I've worked with. Just acknowledging a person's existence and doing it in a genuine way has so much power, because most people come to work every day, they go, I don't even know why I'm here. But if somebody acknowledges that and thanks you for the effort, that's a big deal. The last one, and I can't stress this enough, this is all through the literature, all through the research literature, the academic literature. All change will either build or destroy trust. Now, why would that be the case? Anybody? Okay, that's a piece of it.
Well, just kind of like you mentioned earlier about the follow-through and so forth through this process, if these steps aren't done, you know, if people aren't communicated, if they don't know the answers, they're not gotten back to, so forth, that's where the trust comes. It's like, you know, I'll come on board with you and go through this change in my organization, but if the organization doesn't, like, give back to me as well, I don't know about the trust.
Okay, there's a little uncertainty that goes with that. Thank you. Other reasons that change builds or destroys trust. I'm not looking for a right or wrong answer.
Well, it's actions. I think it goes with the action and what is said in the communication process. So if the action says something in communication, say something else, I think that could be a big...
An inconsistency between action
between the two.
and what's spoken and what's actually being done. That's really powerful, okay? As a leader, which camp do you want to be in? If you want to be in your organization for the next 5 years and you introduce a change today, where do you want that change to take you in your career over the next 5 years? When it comes to that last statement. I want to build trust. So that a year from now, when I go to Ruthie and I say, Ruthie, I really need your help on this, Ruthie's thinking back and she's going, you know, Bohn used all my time, I didn't know what was going on. Or she said, I knew what Jim was doing, he was helping me along the way. Do you see the difference there? You can even sense it viscerally. So the point is, I want to continue to build, because then when I need to reach out to people, they're going to say, that person will take care of my time, they'll care for me in the midst of it, and I can count on them to help move things forward. I can't stress that one enough. I wish I could go into many more stories about organizations that have damaged trust, and months, even years later, they're trying to dig their way out of it with people crying and all kinds of other interesting things I won't share today. But I want to offer to you, you had mentioned, I didn't catch your name, sir? Tom? You talked about communication, that's across all this and very, very important. But if you look at all these different types of changes, and you've mentioned some of them as well, some of them, it's more important to reduce anxiety. When you do downsizing, you got to work on that one. Some of them are a simplification. If you're doing some policy change and you've got a massive policy, break it into small pieces. If you're working with something like mergers and acquisitions, you want to do follow-up. All those things require just a little bit of a different approach at different times. So I'll stop at this point and ask, is this making sense so far? Okay. I know I speak quickly. Don't hesitate to interrupt me. I only drank 1 cup of coffee this morning, so I'm kind of dialed back. But if there, pardon me? Okay. Well, I can talk really fast if you really wanted me to. I was actually at a stockyard once down in Fort Worth, but I'm not going to go there right now. I sat on a 3,000-pound steer with horns this wide. It was really cool. And I only had to pay $20. But the guy said, whatever you do, don't slap the steer. I thought he was probably right, so I didn't.